Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined, as always, by Derek Brissett. Derek, the Ottawa series has come to a close, but against the preconceived notion following the Scotland display, it wasn't a complete washout. In fact, Canada not only picked up a victory, but the first victory against a top 20 ranked team since 2021, and their first victory over Romania since 1995.
Yeah, I always find those stats kind of like hilarious when we like word it like that. The top 20 team is like that shouldn't be the goal to beat it. Like you should be a top 20 team too. Like
Yeah.
beating a top 20 team is not cool. That's but I guess it is a thing that you did. But beating a top 20 team is not cool. The other thing though, it's like there's obviously a lot I've seen a lot being made of like, oh, like we haven't beat Romania since 1995, and it's like it sounds really bad when you say you haven't beat a team since 1995, but it's like you played them 6 times.
Yeah.
It's like it's not that bad. Like after 1995, they didn't play again until 2005. Like it's a 10-year gap. And then after 2005, they didn't play again until like 2013 or something. Right? Like it's not like it's not like you're sitting here being like, here's our annual like 3-game series that we're losing to Romania every single year. Right? It's just it played 6 games. Like it's not that bad. It sounds really bad when you word it like that, but it's not actually that bad. It's nice that the streak's over though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those scores against Romania since 95 have been only within 2 or 3 points. So
Yeah, no, but when you say a team hasn't lost since like 1995, it's like, well, I mean, like how often do you play them or whatever? It's
yeah, I suppose that's true. Anyway, let's
like we
talk
haven't
about
beat Scotland since 2002. We played them 4 times. Like with like
yeah.
not that big of a deal.
Anyway, let's talk about the game itself. So, it started off with Nelson getting a couple of penalties, then Romania getting penalties, then Nick Benn got his first international try. Andrew Coe, meanwhile, got, I think, like a shoulder to the chest or something.
Yeah,
Which,
you can't hit the guy that doesn't have the ball. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
generally against the laws of rugby.
yeah. It's you can only tackle the ball carrier. So yeah, the whole tackling off the ball thing is like a fundamental
Yeah.
of the game. But yeah,
Legal in some
Romania
sports.
apparently didn't know that law, so they get a player to the bin for 10 minutes. And interestingly, in that time, Romania score a try. That's not usually how the script goes, but so yeah, it was 16 to 13, and then it was so it looked like it was going to be a second try, but the ball got passed to Mason Flesh, who then offloaded it like half a second too soon,
Mhm.
and that was deemed an obstruction. So went back for the penalty. Romania unable to score in that time. So at halftime, we have a 16 to 13 game. Then soon after the restart, Ethan Fryer got his first try, and this, unlike Ben when it was his second game, this was Fryer's first game, and he, to be honest, the entire
It's the
back
best
row
player in
was
the game.
doing fantastic. Yeah, I mean, well, he was player of the match, so
Yeah, and deserved player of the match too.
but I mean,
Crazy,
besides,
crazy. We'll get into that later. Crazy day.
yeah, um, then Romania come back into the game. They end up scoring. They end up scoring a try themselves and getting just edging ahead, and then we have Romania getting their their third try of the game and taking the lead, bringing them up to 22 points. Then Canada remembers that winning is an option. So after Manamua scores a try, Um, and then Andrew Cotrin scores a try to give Canada the lead. Manumua then gets himself yellow carded by just taking Peter Nelson out in the air. So Andrew Cotrin is able to set up for his second try of the match, which happened. Now, this has all happened in the space of 4 minutes. So Cotrin scores a try, Romania get a yellow card, Cotrin scores another try. And the second try is it has happened to Canada so many times when a line out has been overthrown
Mhm.
that for Canada to be on the receiving end of it, oh, it is wonderful to see. Um, and then with the clock against Romania, it looked like they needed to pull something out of the bag just to, you know, have a more decent scoreline. And it's coming up to the final few minutes of the match, and the ball's going wide. They've had penalty advantage, but they don't have it at the moment. And it goes all the way to the left-hand side. And there is Dakota McMullen, who, unlike his brother, he came off the bench and he comes across, he tackles the player and knocks the ball out of the hand. It's a knock on. So the ball is immediately turned over. It is a fantastic try saving tackle from Dakota McMullen that keeps Romania at 22 points. And then with only, I think, about 90 seconds to go, with the ball just inside Romania's half, Peter Nelson decides he's going to be Mr. Fantastic, perfect accuracy, super legs, kicks it 49 meters to split the uprights. And, enough time for a restart, but Canada have the ball. They keep control. They kick it into touch on the 80th minute. Final score Canada 35, Romania 22. It feels good to win again.
It does feel good to win. It feels good. It's fun to talk about a win. And yeah, like I mean, this was obviously it was a great game, great overall performance from Canada. I think like a lot of Rugby Canada games lately, a lot of things. There's like things I liked, things I didn't like. But ultimately, like you can't complain about the result here. It's a like get a big W, a little bit of a break before they play Japan now, but nice to
Mhm.
end the Ottawa, I guess the Ottawa series, the Ottawa little homestand that we had here,
Mhm.
with a W, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think you know, obviously, it's a win, so we'll start with the things that I really liked in this game, and then maybe get to things that are kind of more just nitpicks, I guess, really. But things that I thought were great in this game. It's the second game in a row where Canada started unbelievably well, right?
Mhm.
Which I think which is a huge positive. The first 10 minutes against Scotland were legitimately great from Canada. And the rest of the game kind of looked more like how we all kind of pictured a game against Scotland going. But
Yeah.
the first 10 minutes was like, if you can kind of bottle that and do that a little bit more, right? It's like, Rugby Canada is looking like they're in a decent spot. So it was great to see them kind of get off to another really great start. Peter Nelson slotting a couple penalties to get up to early 6-0 lead. Um, the other thing I really did like in this game was, although Canada, I wouldn't necessarily say dominated this game, they had their like ups and downs in the game. But they kept battling through it, and actually, like, the thing that I think I like the most about this game too, or one of the things I like the most about this game, was that when Romania goes up 22-20, right, with right at about the 60-minute mark, right? After I think they kicked the conversion, they did the MLR style hydration break. But
Yeah.
um like they've been leading the whole game. Romania comes back, they score two lovely tries, right, to take the lead with just under 20 minutes left. And then Canada just kind of kept battling, right? Quatrin ends up with two tries. right? One, one off of kind of a penalty, nice line out maul, well executed by the forwards. The second one you already kind of highlighted, Quattrin, capitalizing on an overthrown line out, right? But it was like, again, like in that the last 20 minutes of the game, Canada was playing in the right parts of the park in order to make that happen. Nelson also kind of coming up clutch with the penalty, like you mentioned, right? To really put the game out of reach at the end. Right. So like, their ability to I feel like that's something that we haven't seen a whole lot of out of Rugby Canada in in recent years was like, when they get faced with some adversity, right? It's like that usually starts the wheels spinning and like errors start compounding. But in this game, they kind of got galvanized by it. They were able to respond. They got the 2 tries. They added conversions. The players looked amped up at every turnover, big tackle, breakdown steal. So I think that stuff was great to see. And then I think, the other really big thing that I think was super positive about this game was the performances of the younger guys, like that next generation that we do want to start building right now. You mentioned Nick Ben, right? He got his
Yeah.
first international try, right? You got like Ethan Fryer, first cap, first try, player of the match. A lot of amazing carries, some great tackles. He was fantastic in the breakdown, right? They're like, nothing like you can't script the debut to go better than what Ethan Fryer just had, right?
Yeah.
Just unbelievable performance from him. You love to see it. You mentioned Dakota McMullen, genuine try saving tackle, saved the game, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of effort. That's the kind of like that kind of effort, the kind of like passion you want to see out of the next generation of players who are going to be responsible for bringing Rugby Canada out of the hole that that the organization kind of finds itself in, right? And bring it back to like the place where we would all love to see it once again, being like, a prominent rugby nation, right?
Yeah.
So like efforts from like Dakota McMullen like that are like really exciting. I think other guys too, like obviously Dakota's brother Talon got his first start. I thought he played really well. He played like 79 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
So it was like almost a full game from him, but he played great. Again, a lot of good carries, a lot of good tackles. Seems like a real nice fit with Ben Lesage in the middle there. Right. So I was excited by that. You got like Cali Martinez, was,
Mhm.
he got his first cap, played just over 30 minutes, right? And again, I thought he was really good. Romania is I feel like one of the things that I think about when I think of like Romania is that they have a good scrum. I think a lot of those kind
Yeah.
of like Eastern European nations, that seems to be like a bit of a trademark of their game. And it's like, see like Cali Martinez come in and be able to help earn some scrum penalties late, but also guys like, Liam Murray and Connor Young, who were playing in the first half, right? It's like they also did a very good job against that
Yeah.
scrum too, right? So I mean, like, I think, and despite what I said last week, Peter Nelson I thought played great too, so I'll give him a shout out. He was excellent. It doesn't necessarily change my opinion on what I said last week, but
No, I get that.
I will acknowledge that he had a great game. Um, and so I think there's a lot of that. I don't know, any other positive notes from this game that jumped out at you. Jerseys are sick. The new jerseys,
Yeah.
actually,
Oh,
full
yeah. That's
outfit.
so
That's sick.
the white jersey with
Yeah,
the black and red leaves
yeah, no,
just
it's sick. Yeah,
looks
it's good.
so good.
It's also
Looks so good.
undefeated. I say we keep wearing it.
Fair enough. Fair. Um, okay. From a overall perspective, I think Holly Davidson was phenomenal as the
Oh, yeah, good,
main
good rep.
referee.
Yeah, good rep game. Yeah,
Yeah, we also had Kat Roche and Luke Rogan as her assistants, and yeah, I think it was a very well balanced game, and Davidson was able to explain to both captains decision making behind each of the calls. And yeah, I
I
think,
I think it is always kind of nice when you want to bring up a ref and be like, yeah, they did a good job.
yeah,
So like, yeah, it's nice.
yeah.
It's way more fun
Um,
than complaining about it.
yeah, that is true. Like, can't believe made this. Yeah, actually, Austin Reed, how dare you bring up that
It
video
all,
showing
yeah.
that foul that Flesh made, you monster.
The
Um,
only call that I was kind of like, ah, God, like, damn it, was like
yeah,
as you said, like the flesh rumball, like line out thing. And I was like,
yeah,
damn it, not because it was the wrong call, but I'm like, damn it, this can be kind of a goofy law sometimes, right?
yeah, and
Romania didn't react to that well and benefited from it.
yeah.
And it's not, again, it's not the wrong call, but it's like,
Yeah, it's just like
yeah, like,
we had momentum going, and now it's
yeah,
back
like,
for a
why?
penalty
Yeah,
and stuff.
damn it, like.
Yeah,
Like
uh,
if that Romanian player actually managed to be where he was supposed to be and tackle effectively, it would have been fine. But that's somehow Canada's problem that they were slow to react to the maul. But whatever. That's a bad law or
yeah.
weird law, not necessarily.
Anyway, back onto positives. I think that Canada was a lot more open in play. There was a lot more passing from like wing to wing as
It did do that a
uh,
lot better. Yeah.
things went on, which I think obviously benefited them greatly, and helped set up Ben's try at the start.
Mm.
Fryer, I know we've already mentioned player of the match, but just having that eagle eye to spot the break in the defense to go over for his first try. Quatrin getting a double, one from the set piece and the other from realizing the opportunities. And I think that's obviously where experience comes into the mix, and just knowing to be in the right position at the right time benefits well. Nelson, yeah, I'll agree with you entirely on that. I think that, yeah, doesn't the criticisms that we had last week are still valid, but
Yeah.
he's putting up his hand saying, "Hey, I'm still eligible. I'm still able to, control the game and kick for posts." And 6 out of 8 times he was on the money. Um, yeah, and okay, and yeah, I think overall it was much improved performance from compared to against Scotland, especially in the second half.
Mm.
And now I'm going to move into the negatives. Konash's try, Romania's second. That was just a clear gap in defense, missed
Yeah.
tackles. That was
I
easy as
think
you like.
yeah, like I think obviously I think that's kind of one of the things where it's like you kind of mentioned Canada's attack looked a lot better. And it did, like overall.
Yeah,
But like I think it's like one of those things that seems to be kind of like separating other teams from Canada right now is like the ability to score like long range tries, right? Like, get like get however it works out, but get like a big line break and capitalize on it, right?
mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like all of Canada's tries were like pretty close, right? Like you
Yeah,
have obviously a couple line out mauls that within range that got over there.
yeah. I
Um
think Ben's
Watching,
was the furthest out,
yeah, and that was
technically.
like 10 meters out, really, right?
Yeah,
Because it was like they had advantage, right? And Nelson put that kick through, but they were already inside the 22, right?
mm,
Where you kind of look at the game against Scotland last week, the like obviously there's the score line, but like a lot of Scotland's tries were like long distance tries.
yeah,
Like it's not like they ever in the Scotland game, they never had Canada like pinned in their 22 burning through phases, right? To
hmm,
like break down the defense. They were just like, oh, like a couple passes create a hole, a couple passes create a hole, line breaks all day, offloads all day, and tries were being scored because of it, right?
hmm,
And I think like this is another kind of example of that. And it's like the defense has to tighten up on this a little
mm,
bit. 'Cause it's like there's that the initial line break, right? The Romanian player goes between I believe it was Liam Murray and Ben Lesage, right? Lesage kind of makes like a big diving effort to try to get there, but like ultimately they shred through that tackle. which then immediately puts Nelson in a 2-on-1.
Yeah.
And he's like flat footed and he's just kind of like, well, like, here's the pass. Like, it's, and like, there's almost nothing you can do after the initial like missed tackle, right?
Mm.
Like, if you're a good rugby team, you're going to be able to execute that 2-on-1, right? And like, it's just like, all right, one missed tackle and the whole defense is in shambles. Like, it's just falls apart, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like, I think that's something that definitely needs to be picked up. Um, Another thing that I didn't like about this game, and it's not really the game itself, but this is more of like the it's not about this game. It's about, to me, it's about like the bigger picture of Rugby Canada. And it does kind of tie back into our big positive point, right?
Mm.
Which was, some of the best players in this game were guys in their first, second, or like, let's say under five caps, right?
Yeah.
But like a lot of those guys were the best players in the game, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And like, that's what you want to see. And like, I just am kind of like, I really love the fact that Rugby Canada won this game, right?
Yeah.
And because, I want to see Canada win, I want to see everyone improving, but I'm also kind of like, feel that winning this game isn't the be all and end all. It's developing the team to get back to a World Cup, right? And stay in the World Cup and like keep going and keep building and move back up like the world rankings and continuously return to World Cups,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, the some of the issue I have in this game is like a little bit of the player usage, I think, from Kingsley Jones kind of became, we need to win this game right now.
Yeah.
Right. Um, and
Someone's job may be on the line.
but it's not,
So,
it's, yeah, I know, like, I don't, yeah, fair enough. But it's like, I think, like, but I think, like, you look at some of the player uses, like, James Stockwood came on in the 79th minute to replace Kyle Bailey.
yeah, like
Brock Gallagher
this
came
is
in
something
in
that
the
I wanted
79th
to
minute. Yeah.
pick up. Yeah, Brock
Yeah.
Gallagher
And Mark
and
Pulaski all came in the 79th minute,
and
which I think means combined, the three of them played about 105 seconds more than the two of us in this game. Um,
yeah,
right? Because like Nelson kicks that penalty, the long range penalty, and then there's
yeah,
what, 25 seconds left on the clock at the restart,
yeah,
right? Like, and I think like the the thing is like, I think like if you're winning, I understand maybe being like, hey, some of these guys are playing really good. Let's leave them in, right?
yeah.
But like, I think when it's like you kind of look at it and it's like, man, like, okay, like we do need to be developing halfbacks. Like,
Hmm.
Brock Gallagher might actually benefit from, like, getting some time in the last 10 minutes of this game, right?
Yeah,
Bolesky just, I mean, it's cool that he got his first cap. Might not be the best story to tell at the bar later,
yeah,
in 30 years, regaling the story of his, like, what's he gonna do in 20 seconds, right?
yeah,
Like, you know, like, right. And same with like same with like James Stockwood, who came in for Kyle Bailey. Kyle Bailey, obviously a vet, played well in this game. I have nothing against Kyle Bailey in this game, but obviously a vet. But it's just like, yeah, like, what are you, like, what are you gonna do in what are you gonna do in 30 seconds? Right. Like, and I think obviously there is, you know, maybe those decisions were made to win the game. And, fair enough, you do have to win games. But I think it's like what we've been kind of talking about a lot is just like, I think you need the time to be like, we need to be getting a lot of the younger players in the next generation experience and like mentorship from some of the vets. Right. And I'm thinking too, like, even in this game, like, Quatrin scores the try with in the 69th minute, right? To put that, you kind of put them up, right? And like, I'm kind of looking at this and it's like, especially for like, say, Brock Gallagher, right? And be like,
yeah,
would that not be an awesome situation to throw like a young player into? To be like, look, like we got 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
We're up by just over, just over a converted try, right? Bring us home. Like, you know what I mean? Like here, it's a test match. Balls in your hands now. Like, bring us home. Or like even like, Bolesky, Stockwood, just be like, yeah, like go and lock this game down for us. Like you're the guys coming off the bench. This is your job, right? Because that's honestly that's the job of like most 21 jersey guys, right? Is it's like you come in with
Yeah.
10 minutes left and you have to like shut that game down if you're winning, or you have to find a spark to put the team back up if you're losing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I just think I'm on like what a great situation that would be to put guys in to like learn and be like, this is what test rugby is like. Let's see if you can,
Yeah. And
right? Like,
yeah. And so on that thought channel as well. So you bring in Dakota McMullen in the 66th minute, and he does that try saving tackle, and you get the penalty in the 78th minute.
yeah,
And let's say that you know Belaski, because I think Belaski was listed as one of like the fly half options. Um, he comes on for Peter Nelson instead, and he says, "Hey, I'm not able to kick this 49 meters and split the post, but what I can do is kick it into the 22." And three of our tries have come from close range. Let's have another try to finish the game. And if we don't get it, it doesn't matter because this isn't you know, a league format in which bonus points are a thing or anything. We would still win by 10 points at this instance. And, you give.
or even be like, hey, like try that 49-meter kick, like
Yeah.
or
Or,
whatever.
yeah. I
Like
mean, he could.
let's like you need like you need a little like I think if you're gonna be like you said like if you're gonna be a halfback in test rugby, right?
Yeah.
You need a little ice in your veins if you're gonna
Yeah.
kick. Like you need the guys that'll be like doesn't matter where the penalty is, they're like arguing with the captain to just let them kick it
Yeah.
kind of thing. Right. And it's like, in certain situations, you hope the captain wins that argument because it's not a good option to kick it. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like, but again, though, like that's a situation that's like, yeah, like put them in that, see how they react. Um, like you said, it's like you're preparing for the Pacific Nations Cup, really. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I just kind of think like to have, I just am like to have three guys sitting on the bench for 79 minutes and 35 seconds, right? When I think personally, I'm kind of like the goal right now should be to be developing younger players. Love
Hmm.
that they won, right? But the
Yeah.
big goal right now is to develop younger players, to develop a team that is going to be capable of qualifying for the next World Cup, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like these are the type of games that I think it's like you can really benefit from playing some of the younger guys in these games,
Hmm.
right? Um, and like you know what I mean, and like even at that, like worst case scenario, Romania ends up winning the game, right? And it's like, well, you all still learned something from your experience in that game,
Yeah.
right? Again though, happy that Canada won. Like I'm not like it's
You're
just
not knocking that at
I'm
any
not knocking
point.
that. I'm just kind of like it's a really nice like small, I guess like small picture win. I think it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's really nice and I like want Canada to be like and the players deserve to celebrate this victory for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just kind of like sometimes like okay, like looking at the big picture, it's like all right, like we do need to get guys more playing time or get these guys more experience and stuff, right? And I like I just would like to see them kind of brought in more. As I mean, even the one thing we also haven't mentioned, right, is like kind of like we kept saying Ethan Fryer is the best player in this game. He got subbed off in the 70th minute too, right? And
Yeah.
it's why not let the guy that's been absolutely balling out for you in his first test match, right, has a try. Like, why not let him finish
Yeah.
out that game, right? Pull off of pull off one of the vets to put Perry on if you want, but like, um, there's kind of just like let those guys kind of go. Like even Kotze, again, Quatrin was playing great, like right. So maybe just to win the game against Romania, maybe to win the game,
Yeah.
leaving Quatrin in as long as he was in, it's probably the right
Mhm.
call to win the game. But for the big picture, I would also like to see Kotze get some more time than 3 minutes, right? Like there's kind of I understand why you would leave Quatrin in to win the game, but I'm also like, but on the other hand, I think, it would have been nice to see Kotze get more than 3 minutes just to
Yeah.
see for his development.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, is that something you mentioned that the Pacific Nations Cup that is coming up in just over a month?
Yeah.
Canada will be playing Japan um in Vancouver,
Vancouver.
and promotion already going on Rugby Canada's social
Yeah.
media channels. Um, those who don't know, the format will be Canada, Japan, and the United States will be in one pool, with Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga in another. So Canada will face Japan, the United States will then host Canada, and then Japan will host the United States.
Yeah.
The top two in each pool advance to the semifinals, with the bottom of the pool playing in a fifth place playoff. Um, so I'm just going through the structure because apparently they did it in a similar format back in 2019, just without the finals round. So for
I like
Fiji,
the
Samoa,
finals.
Tonga, and Canada, Japan, the United States, and just found some interesting tidbits. So Canada's first game from that version of the series in 2019 were so their first game was against the United States. That was the debut of both Peter Nelson and Andrew Quatrin for
Oh,
Canada.
nice. That's cool.
Um,
Um,
uh, and yeah, and then they also play. It's really interesting these how these pools were done, because it's it's one of those weird things of instead of playing everyone in your pool, you play
oh, you play
everyone in
everybody
the
in the other
opposing
pool?
pool.
Yeah.
So
It's weird.
Canada faced the United States, Fiji, and Tonga, and won none of those games, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah.
but
It's a weird structure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm honestly glad they
I'm glad that it's not that
aren't doing that anymore. Um, but yeah, we're very interested in this. It appears that the I think the 2025 version of the Pacific Nations Cup, which will have the final rounds in the United
yeah.
States, is also going to play a part in the Rugby World Cup qualifiers for 27. So it basically would turn out that if Canada gets a win over either Japan or the United States, they would effectively secure the qualifying for the
Hmm.
next World Cup, which would be nice.
That would be
Obviously, that has yet to be ironed out and confirmed. Also, keeping in mind that Canada are currently, after their victory over Romania, are now ranked 21st. USA are ranked 18th, and Japan are ranked 14th. So
that's
easier said than done, but we'll see.
yeah.
Um,
Um, I did have one kind of thought on the games they just played, plus leading up into the Pacific Nations Cup.
yeah.
Did you happen to catch Mitch Richardson's not halftime, but like mid second half, like sideline interview?
To me, I was kind of thrown off because I remember like Ben Lesage did like a halftime interview,
Lasage,
and
yeah, Lasage did
I'm of the mindset of let the players play
yeah.
and get their rest at
Richardson
halftime.
wasn't
Don't
playing in this game though.
I know, but for Lesage, I was like, come, the guy's just done 40
Yeah, no,
minutes of
I know it's called
action. Just
marketing.
just let him rest for time here.
It's called marketing in the
I think
show. But
I got like bits of it because this was during a water break, right?
yeah, no, it was actually after the second Romania try, weird timing.
Yeah.
But it was like right after the second Romanian try. But I thought it was interesting. So it was obviously Gareth Reese, Jamie McKenzie. They were like on the call for this game. So they're interviewing Richardson. And it did kind of get me to think about like overall structure of rugby in North America a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
just because so Reese asked Richardson about the Scotland game and like preparing for it,
Hmm.
to which Richardson responded by saying, like, I I'm gonna totally paraphrase this. Go watch the interview. It's right after Romania's second try. But it's like he was saying that it's like, Scotland's the sixth ranked team in the world. And he said it's a tough ask. It's a tough ask and a tough team to prepare for on 5 days, right? And he said that they only had 4 hours of training together, right, before the game. Right now, in obviously that's probably not ideal to play any team, yet alone Scotland, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the result of the game is a little reflected in that. Um, and I think in thinking about this, I think y- Rugby Canada, USA Rugby, and Major League Rugby would probably do really well to kind of work together to find a way to end the MLR season before the test window again. Um, right.
Yeah.
Because
And I
I have a thought
obviously
before
like,
I go on, but
yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't
yeah,
obviously understand the workings of MLR. Because previously we've had seasons begin in, late January, early Feb,
yeah,
and now we're pushing it back later and later. And, back in 2021, when the international window hadn't been confirmed, yes, overlap
yeah.
happened. We understand that. Um, but even like
I
the
just
22-23 season, those concluded before the international
yeah,
window.
which is I think the way it should be because I think ultimately I think it would benefit like all three of those parties involved,
Yeah.
right? Like I think like so Richardson was saying that they had 5 days, 4 hours of training, however that works out, but for like 4 hours of training together over 5 days to as their prep, right? And it's like, okay, well, why didn't you get together earlier? And it's like, well, obviously everybody was playing in the MLR the week before,
Yeah.
right? Like, and everybody was playing in the MLR the week before because that was the last week of the regular season, right? So so everybody goes the week before. You have a right, you play the two games. And I think like part of that is being like, okay, so if we're gonna highlight that, hey, there wasn't a ton of time to prepare for the game, right? And so it's like, okay, like now you're kind of looking at the test schedule and be like, okay, the next game against Japan is what, in a month? Just over a month?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it would be awesome to be like, all right, cool. We beat Romania, right? Let's go build off
Mhm.
that. Let's get everybody out to Langford,
Yeah.
right, and be like, all right, sweet. Like we're going into a training camp for the next month. We got to prepare for the Pacific Nations Cup starting with Japan, right?
Yeah.
But like they can't do that because everybody's got to go back and play playoff games. So now everybody's going back to the MLR
Yeah.
to play the playoff games, right? So
Yeah.
now you're going to be both USA Rugby and Rugby Canada are going to be like in the same boat where they're like waiting or they have like partial training camps because some of the players are still playing, right? Um,
Yeah.
and like especially for like some of the Canadian team, right? It's like there's a lot of guys on like if say the MLR final ends up being the Free Jacks versus Jackals, that's half a Team Canada,
Yeah.
right? Like if that's what the final ends up being, right? And I'm just kind of like, okay, so like USA Rugby and Rugby Canada, like would they'd probably rather have their players in like a camp, right, than playing playoff games, right? And at the other side of it, like the interview concludes, and Gareth Reese mentions that Richardson's not in the lineup because like he was deemed like unfit. So
Yeah.
like that's the only information that was available. So I'm not going to like speculate necessarily on what that means, but it does kind of highlight the possibility too that okay, so all these MLR playoff teams, like what, like these guys could get hurt playing test rugby before the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? And it's like the and to be honest, it's like injuries are a risk of any rugby, right? I'm sure like, you know, you can reverse that situation and be like, well, like international teams would be worried about guys getting hurt playing for, you know, an MLR club, right? But now it's like cool, but like now you have guys that have to go away during the playoffs, right? And they have to go away during the playoffs, play for their country, and then come back, right? And it's like, yeah, like you can get banged up playing for that. And now, you know, teams might be down some star players because obviously they're star players. They're on the national team, right? So now
Yeah.
teams might be down some star players, but also like what are the guys that aren't on the national team doing? Like they're just hanging out for 3 weeks.
Mm.
Like, you know, that's also not good either, right? So it's like, I don't know. I think like ultimately I'm just kind of like, I think we need like we need to find a way to. I would like to see it go back to the MLR season ending before the test window, because even if you had the final the week before the test window, like at least you can get the guys that aren't in the final. Like as everybody slowly gets eliminated, you can start flying them out, right?
Yeah.
To have like a camp or something. But then
Yeah.
also you can have a camp between the July and August tests,
Yeah.
right? To
Oh,
continue
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
work on things without being like, well, our team's all in the playoffs, right?
Mm.
And it's so um I don't know. I think it's got to go back to like the season's got to end before the test window. Play some games in the snow. It's snow,
Mm.
guys.
Yeah.
It's not gonna hurt you. It actually might pad your fall a little bit. It might be nice, but like play some games in the cold or whatever. Texas in August is gonna suck anyways.
Yeah.
Like it's like would you rather play in like it?
Texas is gonna suck.
New
San
Orleans
Diego is
is
gonna
gonna
suck
suck this weekend
as
too.
well.
Like right, like everywhere. Like yeah, there's if you can play in the hot, you can play in
Yeah.
like just you got to end the season before the test window, in my
So,
opinion.
yeah, because this is the thing. The final on August the 4th is being played at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so 1 p.m. Pacific time. That is gonna be hell. Like,
Oh, just hot.
yeah,
Yeah,
that you're under the midday sun
yeah,
in a open air stadium
yeah,
in San Diego.
yeah. It's gonna be hot.
That's
Yeah. I mean, like that's the kind of the thing though. Is it's like I don't really think that that's big of a deal, in all honesty. But I think it goes the other way. Like I think like you can play if it's hot out, and you can play if it's cold. Like it, I just like have a schedule that you can have a 16 game schedule that ends before the July test window with playoffs. Like it's possible because you've done it before. So
Yeah.
it is possible.
Yeah. And so anyway, but yeah, the MLR conference semi-finals begin this weekend. We have Canada South, otherwise known as New England Free Jacks, versus Glory, Houston versus Dallas, NOLA versus Chicago, Seattle versus San Diego. Um, Houston doesn't have any Canadians on their team, so okay. But yeah,
Goodbye,
if there
Houston.
is
First round exit. That sucks,
yeah,
guys.
yeah, but if there is a camp of any description for Canadian players, there's certainly a number from Los Angeles and a number from Utah that can make it. I know that the Miami Sharks have a number of Canadians available for them, and I don't believe that Logan Weiner has played for the USA yet. unless he played for the Scotland or Romania games. But you know,
He played for Canada.
I do understand where you're coming from. I think like if you say like, okay, we're having a Rugby Canada camp, and you know, as soon as if your team gets knocked out of the MLR um, playoff games, the next day we'll get you on a plane, we'll fly you out, and
Yeah.
you'll be in Langford, and you'll be training with the other guys like the day after. And so after the championship final on August 4th, we have 20 days until the game against Japan. Uh, that's 20 days that we can spend together training day in, day out, making sure that our cohesion is the best that it can be, and that when we play Japan, we're really putting them to the sword. So I definitely agree with you. However, I'm not Rugby Canada, I'm not MLR, but yeah, this needs to be sorted out both for Rugby Canada's sake and for USA Rugby's sake. But we'll have to take a look at that. As I said, Canada versus Japan, the opening round of the Pacific Nations Cup. That'll be on August the 25th. Now, we're looking to our women's under 20s in the Transatlantic Quad Series. They had their first game against the United States, and that was held at Cardiff Met. And unfortunately, I only knew about this really late, is that these games are available on rugbypass.tv. So you can either go on that website or go through the app to watch those games. But good thing is that if you've seen Canada senior women and their performance against the USA, is pretty much the same thing. So the final score, Canada 23, USA 10. So great result. Good to get to winning ways. The next game in the series will be Canada versus England. That'll be on July 19th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And their final game will be against Wales on July the 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Both will be held at the Cardiff Arms Park, and all games are available on rugbypass.tv. And speaking of the senior women's team, we have had the date and schedule for the WXV1. So Canada will first face France on September the 29th. That will be held at BC Place. Then their second round will be against Ireland. That will be on October the 5th at Langley Event Centre. And the final game of the WXV round one will be Canada versus England. And that'll be October 12th, and that will be returning to BC Place. Now, if you are like us in Toronto, you'll be able to watch that hopefully on TSN. But if you are in or around Vancouver for those dates, tickets will be available on sale from July 25th. So again, we don't know where broadcaster will be hosting WXV. It will likely be TSN, but we will confirm nearer the time. However, if you are looking for any rugby this coming week, as I said, the under 20 women's, that will be on rugbypass.tv. The MLR playoff games will be available to Canadians on the Rugby Network for free. And in just over a week's time, we will have the opening of the Olympic Sevens. Now, the Sevens in this Olympics will begin prior to the opening ceremony. So the Sevens will begin on the Wednesday, and the opening ceremony will be on the Friday. So make sure you keep that in mind. It'll be the men's Sevens that kick things off. So Canada's not in that, so you don't need to worry about watching that if you don't want to. But the women's sevens will be kicking off that Sunday. So keep an eye out for them, and we will be following along with the Canadian women's team and hoping that they can go even further than they did in 2016. Picking up any medal is always appreciated, but obviously we'll be hoping that they can reach all the way to the final. And if you enjoy this episode, be sure to check out more, as well as our written pieces on our website, therougerugby.ca. You'll also find our podcasts on Spotify, S4P, and Apple Podcasts. We have our YouTube channel at The Rouge Rugby. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, and stay up to date with all our videos. We're also available across social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, all at the Rouge Rugby. Derek, where can people find you on social media?
At Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms.
And you can find me across social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. That's where we're going to end this episode. Derek, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.